Hey guys, Mike here. So today's cult classic review is 1981's Escape from New York, starring Kurt Russell as Snake Plissken. In Escape from New York, set in the distant future of 1997, Manhattan Island has become one giant prison. However, on the brink of catastrophe, Air Force One crash lands in Manhattan Prison, leaving the President of the United States stranded in the city. However, as the prisoner Snake Plissken arrives, they tell him that he must go inside and get the President to earn his freedom. And so we have Escape from New York. So guys, this is a movie in the series that before watching and reviewing it today, I had not seen it before. Though going into this one, I did hear quite a lot of good things about this one, especially from my dad, who said this was a really good film that I did need to watch. So, what did I think of Escape from New York? Well, first of all, I gotta say, I just love the premise for this film. I love the idea of one giant prison island, and I really want to see what they do with it. And I do really like Kurt Russell as an actor, though I'd say his character isn't really anything special, really. Don't get me wrong, his character's not bad, but by today's standard, he's incredibly cliche, and it's not anything we haven't seen before. Though in all fairness, I imagine back in 1981, this was quite a fairly unique character, and probably hadn't been already done to death at this point. But like I say, his character wasn't bad, it just wasn't really anything special. But I was thinking, maybe if his character didn't really have anything interesting to say, maybe he might have a lot of good action sequences. Though, to be honest, I'd say the action in this was quite stilted and fairly uninteresting. To be fair, the gunplay was fairly interesting, but when it came to hand-to-hand combat, it was just incredibly slow-paced. Not that most of the fight sequences will last more than 3 seconds, so you could really take a chance to analyse them. Most of them are just punch, punch, block. That's it, over. Except for probably the end fight between Snake and the big wrestler dude. That one lasts at least about a minute or so. I was thinking with this big wrestler geezer, the fact maybe he's moving so slow is because he's got a lot of power and it's supposed to display how much power he's got. But really, it didn't come across as like that. It just came across as an incredibly slow guy who left himself open at every opportunity. And eventually, obviously, that becomes the guy's downfall. So, action, not really much to write home about. What about the acting? Well, unfortunately as well, the acting isn't really all that good either. Pretty much like the action, the acting is very stilted and uninteresting as well. I think the only character who had any kind of life or personality to him was the cabbie. And though his character was fairly entertaining, I wouldn't say that he had enough screen time to really make an impact on me. The one thing I will say to Escape to New York's credit, this is a brilliantly paced film, because it's just a little over an hour and a half, and it makes every second count. At no point did I think the story was dragging or had any unimportant parts in it. Everything aids in keeping the story moving at an interesting pace. Though honestly, even though ultimately I didn't think very much of this film, I actually kind of wished it was a little bit longer, giving us more time to explore the prison and have a bit more tension as to whether or not he will find the president or not. But still, I would say they did an excellent job in timekeeping with this one. So guys, would I consider Escape from New York a personal cult classic, and would I recommend that you guys should see it? Honestly, I probably wouldn't consider this one a personal cult classic. Ultimately, I wouldn't say there's anything particularly wrong with this movie. It's just kind of a bit dated. I think that's its probably biggest crime. But as well, looking past all of that, I just didn't think this movie was anything particularly special. Maybe back in its heyday I might have thought a bit more about this film, but as it stands right now, I just didn't really think it was all that. But as for whether or not you guys should see it, I would say that if you haven't seen that many action movies, I'd say give this one a watch because it is fairly interesting and fairly well made. But if you've seen loads of different action movies and you've pretty much seen everything they have to offer, this movie won't really give you anything new, so on that front I would say give it a miss. So ultimately, I wouldn't say don't watch it because it's a bad movie. I just say don't watch it because it hasn't really got anything new to it. Okay guys, that's my cult classic review of Escape from New York. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Whatever you think, drop it in the comments below. Until next time, I'll be Michael. See ya.